Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Art of MMA. As you can see, we got a full house today to talk about UFC 277 coming up this weekend. We'll give our reactions to Bellator 283 and UFC London. And then in the Battleground, we're talking Nate Diaz. Did the UFC kind of screw him over in his final fight? We know it took forever to get. Is this the right opponent? We'll debate that as we go on. Of course, check out FightersFirst.shop. Get the latest and greatest apparel. Support all this stuff. You got the Mechanic. You got Cage My IQ here. You got Calf Kick Sports. Of course, Fighters First. All the officially licensed collections. Let our apparel be a part of your story. And as you can see, I got the whole the band's back together. It's been a while. I don't think all four of us have been together. I think the last one was like Art of MMA 50. I think that's how far I had to go back to see all four of us together. So starting right below me, Mr. Cage My IQ, Dan Bakley, welcome. You got over right there next to him, Tim Wheaton. He's been on recently. Actually, both guys have been on recently, but not together. Tim, Calf Kick Sports, and Kicking It, and his partner, my partner, sometimes. I don't even know if he still acknowledges me, but the Mechanic, Brandon Cuttino. Gentlemen, welcome. We got a lot to talk about, so let's go ahead and jump right into this. Last weekend, Bellator 283, headlined by Jason Jackson and Douglas Lima. Jason Jackson showed up, did his thing. You also had Musayev with the upset over Sydney Outlaw. We'll start in the main event. Dan's drinking water, so I'll start with Tim.
Yeah.
What did you think of that main event with Jason Jackson and Douglas Lima?
I like Jason Jackson. I think he's got a bright future ahead of an extremely talented fighter. But unfortunately, Douglas Lima is afflicted, and we've all been in the fight game for a while. So we've seen this haunt other great fighters as well. Tyron Woodley is that example of sometimes guys just fight themselves out. And for whatever reason, we'll have a string of fights where they can't throw a punch. They can't throw a strike. Douglas Lima for fight over fight has just looked hesitant. It looks like he's fighting himself more than he's actually fighting his opponent. And he was one of the guys that I always said, like, he is top 5 welterweight in the world. And then he fights like this for year over year. I hope whatever's afflicting Douglas Lima, he can get over. He needs some time away. I don't know. It's just kind of a letdown. You know what I mean?
Dan, what you think? Do you think age is kind of catching up to him, or you think Jason Jackson was just that good?
It's a little bit of both, because I do know that it all started with that controversial loss to MVP in London, where a lot of people thought that Lima won, but they gave it to, of course, MVP. And then it's just been kind of like a trickle-down effect. And then in this matchup, he just got out-grappled. He's usually one guy that's difficult to take down, but it seemed like Jackson easily was able to get him down. He used the double leg takedowns. He even used the body lock, the leg trip, and it was easy for him. The fight took place on the ground, probably out of the 25 minutes, took probably 22 minutes. That's how long the fight stayed on the ground. And then, just like Tim said, it seemed like he was kind of passive with the striking. Maybe he kind of was afraid to overthrow because he was afraid to get taken down. That's my only thought process with that. But Jason Jackson showed out. He showed that he is a threat in the division.
I mean, last week it almost hurt your soul, Brandon, to pick Jason Jackson, because you knew, like I said it, Jason Jackson is the future. And the couple minutes they were on the feet, even then Jason Jackson was doing the better work, with the head kick and other stuff. What did you think of this main event?
Like I said, this fight went down exactly how I thought it would go. Saying, when you think about boxing, when do you know a boxer is done? When they don't throw back anymore. And that's how it is with Douglas Lima. If you go back to his days of his fight against Ben Askren took him down, would wrestle him down. But what was Douglas Lima doing? Attacking him from his back. He was going for submissions. Saying Douglas Lima is a jiu-jitsu black belt. In this fight, he would get taken down. What was he doing? He was holding guard like he was a newbie. He wasn't, like, there was no urgency. He wasn't trying to get back. He wasn't giving any resistance. Like, he was just accepting it. Same thing like Tim. He brought up Tyron Woodley. That's how Tyron Woodley was. He wasn't throwing. And everybody be like, yo, why isn't he throwing? To me, that's when you know somebody's done, when they're not throwing back or they're not attacking. They're like saying Douglas Lima isn't getting beaten up, but if he keeps going down this road, eventually he will get beat up. And we don't want to see that. So hopefully, like I said, he'll take some time off, recess, and maybe, he'll come back and figure out what it is that he wants to do.
I mean, do y'all just think it's a lack of confidence? Because, he's only 34. He's been through wars with so many other fighters. the 4 fights he's lost, Mousasi, no shame in that. Amosov is the champ. Michael Page, no shame in that. Jason Jackson, no shame in that. You got to look at it sometimes and think, okay, this guy has lost his confidence, because there's no way at 34, even though he has fought 43 pro fights and who knows how many countless amateur fights, that this guy is done yet. But at the same time, he looks done. And I don't know if he needs a mental break or what. And then at the same time, Jason Jackson on the other side of the coin, he's looking like, all right, Amosov, when you come back from the stuff going on in Ukraine, I'm ready for you. Let's go. Whenever that might be. He's the future of that division. I don't even think Amosov can hang with Jason Jackson because of the way Jackson mixes up things so well with the ground game and his striking. But that'll be a more interesting fight to me than this Lima fight was. Tim, you're nodding your head. You got any final thoughts on this one?
No, yeah, like you said, confidence. There's a ton of stuff afflicting the man, and he's such a talented fighter. But and he has some of the best weapons, some of the best leg kicks in the game. He's incredibly talented, but it's sad to see him go out like this. You know,
and maybe he just lost the explosion in his game. Maybe he just can't explode out anymore because of the age. And when I look at that division, you said Amosov. We can't forget the interim champion Logan Storley. He's there after just getting that.
That's a horrible matchup for Jason for Storley, as Jason Jackson can wrestle too. You get Jackson, like that's a horrible matchup for Storley.
You got a lot of those wrestlers up there at the top, but then
don't worry, Brandon.
Jackson, Amosov, and Storley, and I just think maybe it is. Yeah, maybe he needs to change divisions. I don't know.
I mean, it wouldn't hurt him to like be a little bit more comfortable, go up to 185 pounds. Go ahead, Brandon. I see you grinning. Go ahead.
I was just saying. No, I was just finding.
You think Storley and Jackson? What?
No, I'm just saying they're teammates. So I mean,
they're probably not gonna fight.
Yeah. No. They are down. They are down to scrap with each other, but they just want to make sure it's for the belt. So to me, I really think it's going to be Storley versus Amosov first. To unify the belts, and then
with Jackson waiting.
That way Jackson will get whoever.
Yeah, I mean, there's still other people waiting there. Gracie and some other guys in that division that could give him a fight while he's waiting. So it could be some stuff.
He's fighting in 2 weeks against Gucci.
Yeah. And then in the co-main event, we saw, and Brandon, you actually called this one. I didn't think there was any chance, but I told you last week, I think it was dumb for Sidney Outlaw to take this fight. He had a title fight for the lightweight championship against Pitbull. Pitbull got sick or hurt. I don't remember. He was only supposed to be out for a couple weeks for Tricky Pitbull. And Outlaw took this fight against Musayev, who was making his Bellator debut. He had fought in Ryzen and a bunch of places overseas. He had already beaten Patricky Pitbull in Ryzen in one of their crossover events that me and Brandon talked about last week. And Brandon, I'll start with you. You called this in first round knockout. Musayev came out, looked very comfortable. I thought, the last second might give him trouble. Sidney Outlaw had something to fight for. But what happened?
It's like I said when I gave you the breakdown, I had said that Outlaw was going up against a dynamic striker. The man can strike, got good footwork, good combinations, and that's what happened in that first round. I think, what was it, 27 seconds? I think the fight was
27. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, it didn't take long. Like, hey, I get it. Like we talked about it. Hey, Sidney Outlaw, maybe he needed the payday. He needed the money. This is how he gets paid. So that's why he still said yes to the fight. But and otherwise, though, man, like I said, we both said it was a bad take. He shouldn't have done this. But again, like I said, we don't know his circumstances. Like I said, maybe he needed the money and he took the fight. And hey, man, this is why you don't take short notice fights sometimes, especially too when somebody is a former champion in another promotion. That means they have good credentials. Yeah, so that was just my thought. Like I said, at the fight again, another fight that happened the exact way I thought it would happen.
Yeah, and we said it was a bad idea. I don't know what the circumstances were. We know fighters that aren't on the top of the pay scale, they got to have day jobs. They got to have everything else. And sometimes you train for a fight, you can't afford to move it back even a couple weeks or to the next event, which is unfortunate for Sidney Outlaw. Dan, was this a bad idea taking this short notice fight? And what were your thoughts on the fight?
Well, on the fight, he just got caught with that quick overhand right and then followed up by the left. And then even then, he started to move, but then it was kind of like a delayed reaction. Kind of reminded me of the Barbosa-Burgos fight, where it was that delayed reaction, and he started to wobble. He couldn't stand, and then it got finished with the third shot. I don't think it's a bad move to do it. He wants to stay active. You don't know when.
But it was only a couple weeks.
You don't know when Pitbull is going to be ready, though.
That's what I'm saying. Pitbull's ready. Pitbull's actually
but Pitbull on Twitter was saying November.
Yeah, so that's
like November, but his injury was only supposed to keep him out a couple weeks.
Yeah, but he wants to fight in November, so you kind of have to go by what the champ says. So that's another 4 or 5
titles.
That's then like another 4 months of waiting / training again, and he probably wants to get, like you said, he probably wants to get paid. He wants to stay active. He doesn't want to wait that long, so he just took the fight because it was literally was it 5 days out, like a week out,
yeah,
and he went for it, and he just got caught by a shot. It happens, but I think it's a setback, but he's going to kind of learn from it, and I think he'll be back. I don't think it's like he gets knocked out and then he'll be out of it.
But he's going to have to win a couple more now.
Yeah. Well, which I think he'll be fine with. It was a calculated risk that he took.
Tim, so what's next? Because Moussaiev, he's going to probably have to win a couple fights before he gets into that title picture. I mean, he's brand new to the division. Outlaw is now, like, this was the worst possible outcome for him. You got, still got Keely, you got AJ McKee talking about coming up a division to fight. What's next? Because this just messed up everything.
Yeah, and I think it is a risk taking a fight against a young, hungry upstart, and then you do a straight line entry against him. Like, man, you got knocked out in just a few seconds. It's an embarrassing thing that you can't just have.
Yeah,
one
it wasn't
winning.
a tough split decision loss. It was definitive.
Yeah, exactly. Also, Tafik Moussaiev as a side point, bad guy, bad boy all around. Like his losses are high level, stuff like that. He's also huge for this weight class. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe a Benson Henderson, Brent Primus is still out there, very desperate to get a win. There is some really fun.
Primus has won a couple in a row, hasn't he?
Yeah. I thought Primus was on the other side at this point.
I think he's won like 3 in a row.
Let me look it up here before we look like fools. Let's just settle.
Moussaiev is getting the next title shot. Come on, guys.
No.
Honestly, I think Nurmagomedov should be next, right?
Nah, Moussaiev.
He's number one contender.
No, Outlaw was the number one contender.
No, now today, Nurmagomedov is the number one contender.
Moussaiev already has a win over Pitbull. Yeah. Just look out your number one contender. Like I said, a former champion from Rise. All right. And Pitbull is even saying he wants Moussaiev. There's no Nurmagomedov talk. And again, like Dan just said, you're gonna go with what the champ wants. So Scott Coker knows what's best for business. This is the fight that we want to see. And plus, two, Nurmagomedov doesn't have a win over anybody in the top 5. Moussaiev does. He beat your number one contender.
But at the same time, that's just one win, whereas Usman is on a 4 or 5 win streak.
He's on a 15-fight win streak.
In Bellator,
but he hasn't beat anybody in the top 10. Moussaiev has.
Look, his last name is Nurmagomedov. You got to give him a shot.
Moussaiev has.
Do Tafik versus Usman. Winner gets Patricky. Do that.
I mean, they could. Neither one fought a lot last fight. They were both pretty quick.
Anyway, as I said, so Brent Primus has lost.
He put the glasses on. He's serious now.
Lost. Yeah. Okay. So he's 2 losses, 1 win in the last 3.
Yeah, all tough fights though.
Yeah,
he's still ranked number 5. I mean,
I like
he's 11-3 overall. Those 2 out of his 3 losses. And then you got a former champion sitting there always. Keely sitting down there. He's always available. So there's some people. Benson's even number 3. He's been coming up slowly. So I mean, Brandon's
Keely
right
and Benson
there.
are fighting in September. They're fighting in Ireland.
Keely and Benson, yeah, I know. So a lot of stuff could happen. But that division now is wide open because the number one contender just went bye-bye.
And everybody else other than Usman and I think Tafik have lost.
Yeah, and speaking of Usman, I mean, he destroyed Chris Gonzalez on his card. Like, he went through, got the guillotine in the first round. Larkin and Berkhamov, I don't even know what to make of that with the no contest because of the illegal blows. Like, Larkin admitted what he did, but at the same time, he was crying about the outcome and, like, saying that him and, like, Berkhamov and the ref were talking backstage after the thing and trying to make some conspiracy theory. And I'm like, dude, you clearly hit him illegally. Like, what are you talking about? So I don't know what's up with that, which really messes up Lorenz Larkin, right? Because he was on a major win streak and competing possibly another guy you're talking about that welterweight division that could be making a name for him late in his career. Gom and Franklin, that was another submission stoppage. I don't know why I picked against Dalton Rasta, as Brandon's wife told me. She's like, why would you do that? And I just gave her the thinking face because I'm not sure if that was planted by somebody else or if she was literally just talking shit to me.
That's all her, man. I'll tell you why. Because Rasta is, I guess, a friend of a friend. That's why he's a friend of a family friend. So
there's family hatred there.
A family friend of ours knows his family. Like he was just like talking to Don Rasta's mom. So that's how we became fan of Rasta. So.
Well, it gave Cotton his first loss. Your girl Vanessa Porto took the L. Artiga got the submission over her. I should have stuck with that Gotzi pick I was telling you about, Gotzi versus King. Magomedov with another submission choke over Bohm. Your fight, Feraldo versus Iniguez, ended quick with a knockout. Bates and Coates, a split decision, and then Colgan over Neuro with a knockout. Before we move on to the UFC, Dan, any highlights on that card that you felt like stood out?
I just think that Usman getting that finish again, he's been on the rise. He started out like in his first fight, he was kind of slow, but he's kind of figured it out. I mean, I believe he's gotten a finish in every fight since then. And now that we've talked about it, I really want to see him and Tafik fight. Now I want to see that fight, and more than I want to see them either guy fight the champ, because I think that's a better fight to book. It's just that Patricky has the belt, and so you got to get the belt. So I'm hoping whoever fights and wins, and then we can book that fight as soon as possible.
I mean, he's a threat. Out of his 15 wins, 13 have been stoppages. He very rarely goes to the distance, so he's definitely a threat. Chris Gonzalez might not have been a top 5 guy, but he was definitely a dangerous guy. Definitely a highlight. Tim, what was your highlight of the card?
Definitely Tafik Masayev all day long. Tafik Masayev, 2 chef's kiss for that boy.
2, not just 1. Oh man, the things we miss on kicking it every week. Brandon, what was your highlight?
That I went 3-0.
Oh, you son of a bitch!
Acknowledge your lead dog.
It's gonna suck when Brandon's feed gets cut off of this. Anyway, moving on. Bellator 283 wasn't the only card last weekend. UFC London, quote Queen, talking about London, another one bites the dust. The title of this episode. I don't even know what to make of the main events from UFC the last couple weeks. They have not ended the way we were hoping. UFC London, Curtis Blaydes and Tom Aspinall, same thing. Another injury cost us a good fight. You had Jack Hermanson and Chris Curtis, Patty Pimlet show, the Meatball Molly McCann show. They continue to roll on, Krylov. But we're going to go ahead and start in that main event. All 15 seconds to talk about. Dan, I'll start with you. I mean, we kind of know what happened, right?
Yeah, it sucks that if they didn't put out the news until after the fight that it was actually a lingering injury that he had already had in training, and he was pushing it off until after the fight, and it was bothering him. It's actually bothering him for the past 2 fights. It's just that he's been able to get out of the fight so quick that it wasn't even an issue. But he threw that rapid kick, and then they said that it hurt there, and then the step back just made something pop in his knee. And now
when he tried to throw the leg kick, nope.
Luckily they said it's only going to be like a 6 to 8 week injury to let it heal, but then he'll need like another month afterwards to allow to get the 100% before he can start training. So at least he avoided a long layoff. At least it'll only be like a couple months. But it just sucks for like a card like that in London where you have one of your top fighters in London fighting. He's a very exciting guy to watch. He can strike. He can grapple. He has really good jiu-jitsu. And then on the other side, you had Blaydes, who was coming back. He looked really good against Dawkins, and he was looking to jump back into that top 3 picture because he wanted to prove himself again. And this was a fight that he wanted. And it sucks that both guys didn't get anything out of it. Like Blaydes got the win, but is he really going to move up? Because it was basically Aspinall hurting himself in it, because there was no that was like the only strike that was thrown was that leg kick, and then he fell back.
Well, in fairness, there was about 30 strikes thrown. Okay, Tim, this isn't Curtis Blaydes' fault, right? Like it's not his fault that Aspinall got hurt, so he moves up. He wants to fight the winner of Ginn and Tua. Honestly, I think that's possible. There's also Derek Lewis fighting this weekend. That rematch could be possible. They, get that stank off his record, so to speak. And then Aspinall now, who's up and, rising quickly up through the ranks, now is stuck waiting a few months. Like Dan said, it could have been way worse injury than it was. What's your thoughts on all those situations?
It just sucks. Like, hey, we've seen so many young fighters' careers.
He's right there. It sucks.
It sucks. You can quote me on that. But so many young fighters have been thrown off by knee injuries. There's a few injuries that you never get back to 100%. Knees, shoulders, those kind of stuff. Like, you can do surgery on it. You can operate it. You can rehab it for months. If you're an athlete, like that might at best get back to like 80% capacity, especially for a guy as talented as Tom Aspinall. He was also training for this fight with the British national wrestling team, which is pretty good training if you're facing a wrestler. Curtis Blaydes is a tough matchup for anyone in that division. He said he's not going to do a rematch. He's not going to take another fight until almost November because he's got some other stuff going on in his life. And he says, I'm not risking my rank. I won this fight. That's that. He gave us 6 minutes in the post-fight presser, and that was enough for him.
Yeah, Brandon, he spent more in the post-press presser, more on social media, him and Tom sharing a beer. Clearly, no hard feelings. What's your thoughts on the situation?
I mean, I had Blaydes winning this fight, but from what I saw, man, to me, Blaydes looked sharp.
Also, that's not fair. That 2 weeks in a row, I've lost a pick because of injury.
Tell me, man,
I had Ortega and I had Aspinall, and you've benefited. It's not fair.
That's the fight game, guy. This is what you wanted to be in. But no, to me, man, Blaydes looked sharp to me when they did have the striking exchanges. I kind of thought Blaydes was winning them, and to me it looked like he had the pop, like he was catching Tom, because I know everybody was worried about Tom having the speed advantage, but Blaydes, man, he was in there, he was mixing it up and he was catching them, and I think Aspinall kind of felt it, and he knew what, and I think he knew what was up, and that's why I think he started to maybe try to. That's why I think he threw the kick, was he was like, let me try to attack his legs instead of trying to have a boxing exchanges, and then of course the injury happened.
I got to give all three of you guys credit. We just analyzed the hell out of a 15-second fight.
When you know.
The co-main event was a little bit more interesting. I didn't see this coming. I thought Chris Curtis was going to win. I thought Hermanson was on the way down. He was struggling ever since that Vettori fight. Brandon, I'll start with you. What did you think of that co-main event?
Good fight, man. Like I said, I am a Jack Hermanson fan. I did pick Chris Curtis, but that's because I thought that Chris Curtis was coming on. Like saying he's been on a winning streak. And like I said, and I thought Jack Hermanson would get stuck basically in a striking brawl. Like he wasn't like this. Jack Hermanson was moving in and out, lateral movement, popping his jab. He wasn't just standing and trying to stand and bang with you, which is what I think Chris Curtis wanted. And that's why Chris Curtis was getting frustrated. This Jack Hermanson looked good striking. Like this is a different guy who fought what's his name?
You could go with
Vettori.
You could go
Vettori,
with
or like
Strickland,
or like
Strickland.
Like this Jack Hermanson, like saying that Jack Hermanson was just standing in front of people. This Jack Hermanson was moving, using lateral movement. This guy was good standing wise. Props to him. Chris Curtis, like he even said it, I think on his tweets, that he just never got going. He was just always stuck in first gear. He never got in the second gear, never got in the third gear. I don't know if it was maybe the travel, the time difference that could have got to him, and he just never got going. But props to Jack Hermanson, and let's see what's next for him.
Tim, do you think that Hermanson was just picturing Darren Till the whole time, and that's why he fought so aggressively?
It's funny. He said that
was supposed to be the fight.
Well, yeah, and he said he never expected to face Darren Till because he said Darren Till
never going to make it.
Yeah, he said Darren Till never shared it on social media. There was all this other stuff going on. He always figured, like, I'm not going to fight Darren Till. That's just not realistic. I thought Chris Curtis would do well in this fight.
Yeah, Darren Till's a whole nother subject.
Yeah, exactly. We could do a Darren Till hour if we needed to. But yeah, I thought Chris Curtis would do really well in this fight. But 2 fights he's been in the Apex, and then first one in a while in the big cage. You're going to face some distant striker like Jack Hermansson. It's a tough one. Jack Hermansson fought his fight. He apologized and smiled at the audience. Just a charming guy all around, but not the fight that you want to watch.
Dan, your thoughts?
I think the reach was the big deal in this matchup. He just couldn't get inside of Jack Hermansson. Everybody thought that Hermansson was going to try and grapple with him because of the issues that Curtis had with Vieira the fight before Vieira started to kind of tire out a little bit, and then Curtis was able to take over. But then that didn't happen. Just like you said, he kept popping the jab, kept on moving, didn't allow Curtis to get going, get any momentum, and the frustration just built. You saw that at the end when he left the octagon. He gave his middle fingers, but then he apologized afterwards, and then you saw him and Hermansson talking afterwards. He just said that the frustration got the best of him during and after the fight, and he's going to have to learn from it in the fight. I thought Hermansson did a wonderful job, and it was a good way to get back in the win column.
Yeah, I thought we were going to see the Chris Curtis that we saw maybe against Phil Halls, somebody with a long reach and somebody that could do wrestling and striking from a distance. And we didn't. We just saw Jack Hermansson come out possessed, kind of. He did his fight. He did everything he wanted to do in the fight. Props to Hermansson. Puts his name back in the conversation. People were writing him off. We were writing him off. Now he's back. So good for him. Paddy Pimblett, Paddy the Batty. The one pick I got right, Mr. Cuttino thought that Jordan Levitt might pull off the upset, but Paddy the Fatty went back to Paddy the Batty, got his twerk on, and finished off Levitt with a second round. Not much to talk about the fight, but I kind of want to get your guys' thoughts on this. Probably the toughest fight he's had yet to date in the UFC so far as a higher level opponent. I won't say rank. He's not ranked, but a leveled opponent. And everybody's kind of throwing this, he's the next Conor, right? Former 2-division Cage Warriors champion, has all the flamboyantness, the crowds behind him. The only difference is he's not punching old guys in a bar, as people say.
Not yet.
Not yet. Until they try to take his sub away from him or a slice of pizza. And the whole dynamic with him and Molly is just so incredible. They can say they're best friends, but I don't know who friend zone who first, but they have such a dynamic that is just, it's so much fun to watch. Dan, I'll start with you. What is the future for Paddy Pimblett? And what's next for this guy?
I kind of hate that comparison between him and McGregor, because we saw McGregor in his first 4 fights, and he fought Poirier and Max Holloway. Those are 2 top guys.
Well, in fairness, he started off with like Marcus Brumage, right?
Yeah, but who did Paddy start out with? And then he kind of like, Paddy has made it a point to be like, hey, I'm not going to fight top talent until you start paying me. And this is a guy who's only 3 fights in. And I think that he needs to start fighting good talent before he gets that big reputation. Like he has a reputation because he's fought twice in London and he's done good. But to me, he hasn't looked dominant. And whereas, like I said, with McGregor, second fight, he fought Holloway. 4th fight, he went and fought Dustin Poirier. He built that reputation off of being very good opponents early on. Yeah. And then he kept on going up and up. And Paddy has said, like I said, I need to see him fight at like a step up, whether it's at like 15 to 20 guy or 20 to 25, not these ranked 30 to 40 guys where they've only won 1 fight in the UFC or they're making their debut.
I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, he's taking advantage of where he's fighting. And he has that personality, which helps him out a lot, tremendously, which is making him money, getting his face out there. It's just that I think he has to do a little bit more with that. You hear they want to put on a show, but then he's shown weaknesses for the top 15 where they're taking notes. They're like, okay, this guy's gonna get shot up because of his excitement level with the crowd, but we're taking notes on what he's not doing and what he is doing. And I think they're gonna take advantage of that. I don't think he's gonna survive the lightweight division if he doesn't improve.
Now, Tim, like, there's no harm in that strategy, right? Because that's what Sean O'Malley's been doing. Sean O'Malley was like, I'm never going to fight a top guy until you pay me. And now he's fighting Peter Yan. But it took a while. He had to go through a bunch of guys before he got to fight up to that level. And Patty's going through Venderami. He's going through Vargas, now Levitt. All have been finishes. This is the first one that went to the second round. He's just like Conor, a 2-division champion coming over. What do you think of the comparisons?
I get the comparisons as in like we're subscribing to this guy's program.
By the way, as somebody over in the UK, what do you think?
Yeah, no, Patty's a big deal. Patty. If you say Patrick Pimblett, no one knows what you're talking about. We all know Paddy though. Right? Anywhere you go in the UK, people know Paddy, and he speaks well. He genuinely speaks well. I asked him a question from the 5th row. He didn't break eye contact for the 7 minutes he answered. It was just like he was talking directly to me. He is serious about talking. And
the same way Kayla did?
Not the same way. But no, Patty's a big deal. And I think his biggest drawback is that at best, he's maybe top 10 because of lightweight is so good. You just saw Gamrot and Sarukian 2 weeks ago. That's how good you need to be to just get into the top 10. And those guys were unreal how good they are. Patrick Pimblett will be a top 10, but he fills that space on the card where like Chris Lieben was. Like this guy probably never fights for a title, but he will be entertaining every time out. And I'll throw the same credit to Molly McCann as well. I'll tune in for both of their fights.
What do you think, Brandon?
Hey man, he did a good job. Like I said, that first round was close. Like I said, I kind of thought Jordan Levitt won it, but hey, he came back in the second round. Like saying the thing to me that you see each fight, he is getting better as you usually tell. I mean, Jordan Levitt isn't really known as a striker or anything like that. So, Paddy Pimblett didn't really get touched up, stand up wise. They kind of were having a grappling battle, which of course, he did get controlled the first round, but then the second round, you saw he bounced back. He made adjustments. He had Jordan Levitt make a mistake. Took his back, caught him with the knee, and then boom, he trapped that arm, rear naked choke. Boom, he got the tap. So again, and I never understand why people are in such a rush when somebody gets a win. There's some hype behind them. Oh, okay, let me see this person against this person, like the top 15 or whatever, man. Yo, like I've been telling people lately, man. Everybody's on a martial arts journey. Everybody's journey is different. Let these people grow at their own pace. Let this man get some more fights in here. And then maybe we get him in the top 15, man. But some people are like, oh, we need to see him against somebody in the top 15 already.
I think it's the same as some of these Russian fighters that come over too, that all of a sudden, like Gamrot and stuff like that, come over and fight in these very tough divisions. You don't know much about them, and then all of a sudden they make a name. But they've got experience. And Paddy Pimblett has 22 fights. He's not a kid. He's a 2-division Cage Warriors champion. He's not like somebody came over with no resume, starting off on Dana White's Contender Series. Like, they brought him over. They've been trying to bring him over for years, and they finally got him to sign. And so same thing when Michael Chandler came over. You come over with that expectation of like, okay, Dana's been trying to sign you for a couple years. You finally say yes. It's not going to be like a long journey to the top. If he falls, he falls, but they're going to give him the opportunities. And in the lightweight division, it's almost perfect for him, right? Because you have a Conor McGregor sitting right there at 12 if you want to sell out a stadium in the UK somewhere. Like, let's be real. That fight would sell out a stadium. Am I wrong, Tim?
Man, Conor ain't doing him that solid yet.
I'm not saying he will, but
you can sell it. You can sell out a stadium in the UK. These fans are absolutely rabid.
But I'm saying Conor versus Paddy, that would sell out a stadium, right?
No doubt.
You got an aging Tony Ferguson, which would be a fun fight. You have a young up-and-coming Jalen Turner down towards the rankings. Dan Hooker, who's struggled.
Why are you trying to get this man hurt, dude?
But is it getting him hurt? Is it getting him hurt when he constantly keeps performing?
Jalen Turner's going to starch him. Why are you guys trying to hurt Paddy Pimblett like that, man?
Jalen Turner looked good his last couple fights, but Jalen Turner also had a lot of hiccups.
Okay, before you put him in a body.
He had a hiccup at welterweight against Vicente Luque. And that's why he moved down. And then he started training jiu-jitsu with the Gracies, and you see the difference in his game since.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm a big fan of Jalen Turner. He's come up. But I'm saying to discount what Patty's done and what he could do. I mean, everything is could. Like Brandon said, the journey. We don't know where this is going for Jalen Turner any more than Patty Pimblett. But we do know he has marketability.
I wouldn't say it's a knock against him. It's just that he's controlling who he's fighting and who he's not. He's
Same thing Sean O'Malley did.
Yeah, but Sean O'Malley also fought Cheetah Vera the 3 fights ago and lost and had to work his way back up. Because
first of all, Sean O'Malley is undefeated. We don't count no contest. We don't count losses. He is undefeated. Anyway, before we spend an hour on this one, Krylov upset Brandon's pick. He thought Gustafsson was going to make his way back. Krylov made sure he did not. Yeah. Meatball Molly, another spitting back elbow. She has permission from The Rock to call it the people's elbow. She's another person I want to see fight, like do what she does in London. Let's do that somewhere else too. Like you see what they do in front of the home fans, and that's fantastic. But you got to do that outside of London too, and that's another one.
You're gonna put them on that MSG card in November. Come on, man. They're gonna travel.
I hope so.
Did you see the comments Dean Thomas made about her?
No, what did Dean say?
He said that she needs to figure out whether she wants to be an exciting fighter or a good fighter because she's kind of in the middle.
I think you can say that about a lot of fighters. I mean, you got to ride that line because winning is what keeps you fighting. So,
I mean, she called out She called out Antonina. I think she knows. She knows I'm entertaining. I'm not going for a top fiver here.
Let me get the other Shevchenko. Ozdemir upset Paul Craig. I didn't actually agree with that decision personally. I thought Paul Craig did more, especially in that first round, on his back, like pulling Ozdemir into these weird guard positions, many sub attempts. Ozdemir did a couple of strong strikes in each round, but if that's all you're judging it on, just the fact that Paul Craig kept Paul in guard, I think that's a thing of, and maybe people will disagree with me, but MMA judging, like, what's your criteria? We always change it. And just because he's on his back doesn't mean he's losing because he's going for a sub every 5 seconds. Klein with a big win over Jones. Takizi over Hadzovic. Nate Wood, another big win over Charles Rosa. Jonathan Pierce over Amir Khani with a knockout. That was big. Mokaev versus Johnson got the win. Jai Herbert, sticking around for a long time, got the decision. Leonardo over Baum. And then Dalby got the win over Silva. Dalby made a lot of noise, too. A lot of people are happy with his performance. Dan, any highlights on the card for you before we move on?
How can we not mention Mokaev with the 10 or 11 takedowns?
Well, we are. That's why I let you mention it.
And like this guy's just dominant in the octagon. He's just shown that he can strike, he can grapple, and you really haven't seen much against him. Now, do I think that he's rushing, trying to go up into the top 5 now? He's calling out Brandon Royval right now, and that he wants to fight him. I think that's a little too soon. I wanted to see.
I mean, the flyweight division's wide open.
The flyweight division's also deep too, but
it's getting a lot deeper too.
Yeah, and I feel like maybe he should stick to 7 to 10 to try that out. Maybe fight like a guy like Manel Cape or something who has fast, quick hands, and then move on up. Because Royval is a submission specialist who could capitalize on those takedowns. You can find those holes and sub them. If he did, like he almost got subbed, and I don't know why he dropped the sub attempt at the point in time late in that fight, but he did. And Charles Johnson, it just confused me. Like you can dominate and you have a clear chance at choking the guy out, and then you just let it go.
His arms could have been tired too. You don't.
That guillotine looked good too. I thought the same thing that you did. Like that guillotine looked pretty good.
Yeah. It looked like he had it in there. He had it tight, and even the commentary said it. And then it just dropped it for whatever reason.
He might have just, like I said, had muscle fatigue.
But I don't want him to take a fight from Charles Johnson and go right to a Brandon Royval. That's a huge.
Yeah, I don't think jump. I mean, I love Royval, so I'd be kind of biased. I think that'd be a bad matchup for him, though, because Royval's so scrappy with his submissions. If he almost got caught by Johnson, then Royval would definitely catch him in something. Tim, what was some of your highlights on the card?
Like we said, Nathaniel Wood. going up in weight class. He had a size disadvantage, but a speed advantage. That guy just looked so good. He looked crisp in this fight. All the stuff you love to see mixing in low kicks. I want to throw in on Mason Jones and Ludovic Klein. I sat right here on this show a year and a half ago, and I said Mason Jones versus David Onaman. I remember this. I said, that is like Max Holloway and Conor McGregor fighting on the undercard. A few years from now, they're going to be fighting. I was half right. David Onama is really good. I will say that. And Mason Jones really didn't pan out as much as I
Sometimes you got to take a risk.
Man, sometimes you got to say some dumb things, but at least David Onama is cruising on. But yeah, Ludovic Klein gets a nice win.
And he took that fight on a week's notice, too.
Yeah, that's the crazy. This is why I was so high on this fight a year ago or a year and a half ago when it happened. Anyway, Nathaniel Wood looked good. Mason Jones making me look like an asshole.
Don't worry, Brandon's used to me saying stupid shit. Brandon, what was your highlight?
I mean, just talking about Nathaniel Wood, with his layoff, came back, looked good, different weight class. Also, too, man, just props to Charles Rosa, man, Boston Strong right there, man. Dude was taking a beating on that leg, but he kept on getting back up, smiling, and he kept on asking for more.
And I want to send a shout out. Thank you, Molly McCann, for not hurting Hannah Goldie's Instagram modeling career, okay? So she was still able to go out and post her pictures the next couple days.
That's good.
Like she didn't get knocked out. So yeah, like she didn't just get knocked out. So appreciate you not doing too much damage to the face.
Hannah Goldie.
Like the elbow hit the side of the temple or something. Didn't mess up the money maker. Good to go.
Hannah Goldie.
All right, that is UFC London. We're going to switch gears, go to Battleground. First time we're doing Battleground with a full house, so hopefully we won't take 5 hours with this and we'll roll through it pretty quickly. Nate Diaz has been crying for his release or give him his last fight now months, and pretty much ever since the Leon Edwards fight, right? And we thought we had him and Dustin Poirier set up. Both guys were like, yes. We've been screaming for him and Conor 3. Both guys have pretty much been like, all right. Chimaev has kind of come. Chimaev is gone. Now Chimaev is back. We know Nate Diaz is not the fighter he used to be. But we know he's going to come and fight. We know he's going to show up, challenge you, probably hit a Stockton slap across your face, and his fans will go bananas because he landed one shot in 5 rounds. Like, we know what to expect out of Nate Diaz. Pros have basically called this fight an execution and are upset about it. We all know, and the funny thing is we all know Nate Diaz has a puncher's chance or a grappler's chance, as he did with Conor, where he got him to tap out to the rear naked. Out of all the matchups we could have seen, Tim, I'll start with you. Did the UFC do Nate Diaz dirty?
Of course they absolutely did. And they do this for fighters when they're leaving town. Anderson Silva and Tito Ortiz got a similar treatment. You got to tour your way out of the up-and-comers to get out of the organization. You got to get beat up before you go. We're not just letting you go. The problem is that this was a very overt effort. They could have had him against Leon Edwards was actually a pretty good one. This wasn't clearly a bad fight for Nate. This one, clearly a bad fight for Nate. A guy who is as big as a middleweight versus a guy who's fought a lot of his career, his best career at lightweight. That's rough as hell. And that's just what the UFC is going to do. They're going to try to lower before you go and test free agency and really test your value in the free market, they're going to try to lower your stock before you go and make an example out of you. And that sucks.
Dan, why did UFC not just go for the biggest money fight and do the McGregor 3 or the Poirier fight?
Well, because there's other fights that are being booked. And you look at Poirier.
I mean, neither one of those guys got something booked.
Well, Poirier's about to be finalized with Chandler, so that fight's being booked as we speak. And then there's talks with McGregor Mayweather too, a boxing fight. So
I got announced today.
You know that McGregor's not coming back. There's no need for him to come back. He's already meeting up, and he's retired. Poirier, we've had so many times where they wanted to get him to move up, and he just refuses to move up to welterweight. He
started at 145.
Yeah. So how are you going to book that fight when Diaz wants to fight at welterweight? He had come out and said,
Poirier said yes.
Yeah, but he also said yes to Colby.
He said he signed the contract.
They did wait. Remember they did stare downs and stuff? That fight was a long.
Yeah. Diaz said send me the contract. Diaz was always the one like I didn't have no contract. Poirier was like I already signed the contract. Let's go.
Oh, this was never mind.
This was earlier this year.
Yeah, and we've noticed that it might have been on Diaz's side where he just never signed it. I've always thought that UFC has been very generous to Diaz. How is a guy that goes on like a 2-3 fight losing streak gets a top 3 fight against Edwards? Like, I've never been a one to like Diaz because I've always felt like it's just a guy that because he goes out there and takes a lot of damage, people like it. I'm not one for it. I get why people like it, but I've always said that I felt like he was overhyped, and he's getting all these booked fights, and this is what happens. And now he's complaining. It's been over like a year or two since he's taken a fight. How long has it been? Over a year since he took the Edwards fight.
Yeah, it was a little over a year ago, June last year.
So really, who is the only available guy? Is that Chimaev? Chimaev didn't have to take the fight too. They asked him if he wanted it, and he could have said, "I'm good. I'm going to wait to see who wins Usman Edwards." But he wants to be active. He wants to fight, and he said, "I'll go in there and fight him." And Diaz agreed to it, and it's going to be at 5 rounds. So it's like, to me, what's
into it, but
I don't think I don't think they had to talk him into it. I think he was willing and ready to do it. He tries to hype himself up. I think this is a bad matchup because I think he's going to get his ass kicked. But that's just my opinion. But I don't think that they're just throwing him out there to get slaughtered. This is really the only fight that you could have booked. If you think about it, unless you can think about another name.
I don't agree with the only fight, and I'll turn to Brandon before I'll come back to you, Dan. Don't worry. turn to Brandon. Another fight that even popped in my mind is Masvidal versus Diaz 2. You know, the BMF rematch that people had talked about. Is this a case? I'll ask you 2 questions, Brandon. One, I want to know your thoughts on the subject, but also, is this a case of where maybe it was Diaz saying no to a lot of these fights because he wanted to release, not to fight again?
So to answer your first question, dude, like the fight that they wanted to make was the McGregor fight. They wanted Diaz McGregor 3. This way they can get it, but you know McGregor is not coming back till at least next year. You're saying with his injury and everything like that. So I don't know why they want to do the Poirier fight when Poirier was asking for it. He was tweeting about it. I don't know. I really don't know why they didn't want to give him that fight. I mean, to me, it could
have been done like 8 months ago with this whole thing because that's how long ago it's been.
Exactly, and because I think even after Poirier lost to Oliveira, he came on like the following week, just tweeting out saying like, "Yo, I will fight Nate Diaz in January." You know, so that's how long it's been going where he was willing to fight, but for some reason the UFC brass they didn't want that fight to happen. I mean, another fight that could have happened to me is I would be down for a Nate Diaz Tony Ferguson fight. Same. Both of these guys fight at 170, both fight at 155. That'd be a good fight, challenging fight. You know, both guys on the ground, jits battle. We would love to see it. This whole fight with Chimaev doesn't make sense because, again, Dana White loves to talk about ranking and how somebody ranked, you know, so high she don't want to fight somebody behind them. But that's what you're doing here. Nate Diaz is not ranked. Chimaev is what, top 5, and he's fighting Nate Diaz. What for? There's no gain to it. Yeah, you know. So to me, man. Again, like we talk about, promoters say one thing and then the next week they say another thing. So it's just nonsense. It is what it is. Let Diaz get this fight and then boom, let's see him versus Jake Paul later in boxing. I'm all for it.
Yeah, my thoughts on the whole thing is that I think there's a little truth on both sides. I think Nate Diaz, for one, was calling out all these guys, and him and Poirier famously were ready to go in January, February. They were ready to go. Both guys claiming like either to sign a contract or just send me the contract. They were ready. Dana was the one pumping the brakes on that. After that, I think everything that's come up passing is at the point where Diaz wanted his release. He didn't want to fight another fight for the UFC. They were dragging their feet too long. He knows if he goes out and gets smashed by Chimaev or anybody, that Jake Paul fight loses a little bit more sales, a little bit more pay-per-view buys. And he knows his cash cow is Jake Paul. And why damage your reputation further? The guy hasn't won but one fight since 2016. The Anthony Pettis fight, which he kind of turned back the clock on, had a great performance. The last time we saw him win, that was 2019. He got destroyed by Masvidal. He got destroyed by Edwards, except for one pop in the 5th round. McGregor destroyed him pretty much. You can call it a majority decision. I don't know what the hell the judges were thinking, but McGregor pretty much dominated him with a very clean strategy, actually. I kind of think laid the blueprint on how to beat Diaz. Just, jab him, box him, stay at a distance. Don't let it really grab you. You take him down, get back up. And then Diaz is getting older too. So he doesn't want to constantly get his ass kicked. I just don't think he wants that. He wants to get paid. And we've talked about this a number of times with fighters like Ngannou and other fighters like Masvidal just got paid. Gilbert Burns just got paid. They went out, they put on a war, and now if they win or lose, doesn't matter. They're getting paid a lot of money for the next fights. That's where Nate Diaz is. He wanted that same payday that Gilbert Burns and Masvidal got, and he didn't get it. Dana's like, I've given you a bunch of fights you didn't really deserve. This is what you got. And so they've been in an impasse for a while, and they haven't gotten it done. I'll go around the room real quick, get a final thoughts. But personally, I think Nate Diaz got the best of a situation he could have gotten because he's not going to get another top 5 guy to go against him. And for Chimaev's sake, yeah, it doesn't make any sense, but it keeps him active, and I don't think it's very much risk. I think Chimaev, any fight is a risk. But I think Chimaev versus Diaz is probably the safest for Chimaev to take because if he takes a Wonderboy Thompson, if he takes any of these other people, he can get caught. And that's not something he wants to do. Dan, final thoughts?
I'll just second that. You just said exactly what I was going to say. I think it was the best of a shitty situation. He's going to make money. He's going to get his release and then go from there.
Tim?
In a year and a half, you're going to say there's nobody for him to fight?
You really want to go back a year and a half after what you just said?
A year and a half. There was no other fight except for Chimaev in an 18-month period. There's nobody else. Get out of here with that. How about Brian Barberina just sitting around? You want to send him off with a win? How about Donald Cerrone? How about Tony Ferguson? There's dozens of doors. Cerrone would have been fine. Run back the clock. That would have been
my only rebuttal is it wouldn't be a main event fight, which is probably what Diaz.
Sure, it would. It could have been a fight night main event.
No,
not a pay-per-view, but it was a fight night.
Definitely not.
I do agree that Nate Diaz has spent his career slightly overhyped. I completely co-sign with that.
That just goes with being a Diaz brother. They bring more shit. They were the original shit talkers. Before McGregor, before any of them, they're the ones going out and challenging Khabib and his whole crew to a fight backstage. That was the Diaz guys. The Jake Shields thing with Mayhem Miller and all that stuff in Strike Force.
Mythos.
The Diaz, that's what they've done. Brandon, your final thoughts?
To me, I don't think this affects Nate Diaz's Diaz stock. If he loses, because to me, everybody has it where he is going to lose, so he is expected to lose. But if he wins, his stock will go up. So I don't think there's any damage. I think the only damage he's going to take is in the fight. But if he loses, I don't think his value gets damaged.
Yeah, you're right. He's fighting the top 5 guys. He's expected to lose, so it is what it is. All right, now that we've gotten through Battleground, it is time for the last segment of the show. You guys know it. You love it. Brandon is the lead dog. And we're going to go ahead and make our previews and picks for UFC 277. Juliana Pena versus Amanda Nunes 2. Main event. Brandon, I'm going to start with you. Last time these two girls fought, you gave Pena a chance that nobody else did. Everybody else was like, and we just thought Nunes was going to run through it. What happens in this rematch?
I'm going with Ann still. I'm still rocking with Juliana Pena, even though I know after the last fight, Nunes did make some changes. But to me though, I don't know if that's really going to help her. Who is she really training with? Who are her training partners? But to me, that really doesn't matter because to me, I still think in the last fight, I think what was exposed or what was exploited about Nunes, which is something that I think we've always known about, and that's her conditioning, her cardio. Saying the times when she fought Valentina, she would win the first round, the second round, but then that third round, she would be tired. And I think here, the thing is, though, Pena just went straight forward was on her, made her fight right off the bat. Nunes did not get to she didn't get to dictate the pace in her other fights. Where yes, like her fight against Raquel Pennington that went 5 rounds, she was fresh as a daisy. Why? Because she was dictating the pace. She was piecing her apart. While here, Juliana Pena was in her face, working, boxing. Actually, was even outboxing Amanda Nunes. Nunes has the power, but to me, technically wise, skill wise, Pena was the better boxer that night. And like I said, again, I think she was really pushing the pace, made it work. That's why again in that second round when she got that submission. She didn't need the hooks because I think Nunes was tired.
Tim, do you think? First of all, I want to know your thoughts on the fight, but secondly, do you think that of what Brandon just said, that she pushed the pressure, she made Nunes tired, but people forget Nunes also had COVID right before that. Do you think that had something also? Like we know she doesn't have a great gas tank, but do you think that made it even worse?
Yeah, it's meant to affect lung capacity and your cardiovascular system.
I mean, I think all of us have had it. Have you, Tim?
No.
Lucky, knock on wood, knock on Brandon's head. I don't know, but like, damn, all of us have had it except for you.
Is it uncool? If I get it in July of 2022, people are gonna be like, "What took you so long, you loser?" I can't get it now.
You and my wife have skipped it. But go ahead,
right.
Make your picks on the fight.
But yeah, I mean, it probably absolutely did affect her. I would imagine that's the case. But yeah, never had great cardio. Probably didn't take this fight too seriously. But that's no excuse for not knowing how to counter a dip jab. She's cleared out 2 divisions, almost 3 divisions of every champion in the UFC history. And you never learned how to counter a dip jab? Come on. I think whoever masters the basics.
The dip jab is Tim's new counter or check left hook.
That's right. That's the flavor of the week. Whoever masters the basics in this fight is going to do everything right. You got to mix in strikes into takedowns, mixing low and high. And if you are just on the back foot, you're going to lose this fight. I could see it going either way. Juliana Pena, like Brandon alluded to, should be looking for clinches, looking for takedowns, and just grinding against Nunes to try to get her into the later rounds and then really put it on her. Nunes, if she has fixed her striking a little bit, she has changed camps, which you never know if it's a good sign. Gilbert Melendez, it really didn't benefit him. Alistair Overeem massively helped him. So you never actually know if that's a benefit or a curse. But yeah, I am going to pick Nunes. I can't pick against someone who has that many wins against other champions. That's my official pick. Dan,
what's your prediction for this fight?
Going into this one, we saw the last one where one of the things that I saw with Nunes was the fact that she was being kind of too aggressive. She put 100% into her striking. She was just trying to knock her out. Really, other than that, that was her only agenda, was knocking out Pena because of the shit talking leading up into it. And she did catch her once, but then afterwards, Pena kind of recovered. And then it was a lot of just shooting air each time. And she really, like you saw, like towards the end of the first round, how the fight changed because she started to get tired. Like you said, the conditioning, because when you're throwing 100% power that whole time, unless you practice it, it just takes a lot out of you. And I don't see it changing that much because of the shit talking is continuing. She changes camps. We don't know how that's going to be. It could be improved. Maybe COVID did affect her, but I feel like she's going to come in with the same game plan and trying to come in there and knock her out. And with that, the jab and whatnot of Pena's, I feel like as long as she avoids those shots, she'll be in good stand to at least make her use a lot of energy and then go in there and clinch up with her to waste it even more. I got Pena in this one. I think she wins maybe by decision, I feel like, because I feel like she'll be the better fighter later on.
Well, Tim, I'll split it even with you. We'll go 2-2 because I'm taking Nunes in this fight because I do think COVID had a lot to do with the conditioning last time. I think she was looking for a way out of that fight in the second round when she got – it wasn't even a full rear naked choke. She had her around the chin, and she was like, I'm done. As somebody who's been battling long COVID since January, and I know Brandon's had it and I know Dan's had it, like it does really affect you. And I can only imagine trying to train at the highest level for a fight. To go into the whole gym, she stole some people from AT&T and she's got her own thing now. I don't think that's going to be a big deal. But you're right. She didn't take the fight seriously last time. She thought Pena was a joke. She saw how she ran through GDR ran through her right before that. And I think the person hoping the most that Pena wins is the Randami because she's been stuck not being able to get another shot against Nunes If Pena wins, maybe de Randamie, who's been sitting there vacant or sitting there idle for a while, might finally get a shot. But I think Nunes is going to come back a little bit more focused. Like Dana White said, she had to get her shit together, and Amanda agreed. She's been caught in a war of words now with Kayla. Obviously, the stuff with Cyborg. If Amanda wants anything to happen after this fight for another big payday against anybody, she has to come out and perform. Otherwise, she's just going to go home and be a mom, to their adopted baby and live her family life, because that's really what she wants to do anyway at this point. She's motivated because she finally lost a fight. It's been a long time. And I think she will come out. I thought she was the better fighter the last time. And I thought Pena caught her on a bad day, any given fight. But I think Nunes is going to get her shit together. And I think she's going to come out and win this fight. And I don't even think it's going to go that far. I think it's probably going to be like a second round stoppage because we're going to see the Amanda of old coming out to prove a point, because that's what great fighters do. If Amanda's one of the greats, like we put her up in that conversation, they don't leave any doubt when they lose a fight. They come back and they end shit. And so I think if Amanda wants to be in that category, she's got to do it. And I do believe she will. And that's not a knock on Juliana. She's earned my respect by far. I've always liked her. But I didn't think she could fight on this level, and she did. But I still remember the fight against de Randamie where she got dominated. And Nunes dominated de Randamie. So what are we talking about? So I pick Amanda Nunes. Over in the co-main event, I'm going to start with the smiling guy to my left, your screen, right? Whatever. I'm starting with the mechanic. Brandon Moreno, Kai Kara France, interim title. Brandon, you know how I feel about interim titles. Had a whole rant on that. But Figueiredo is out towards at least the end of the year with the bad finger injury. He might not even stay in the division because he's so pissed off about everything. So here we are. Brandon Moreno, Kai Kara France. What do we expect?
I'm going with Brandon Moreno. Been a fan of his for a minute. Saying I do like Kai Kara France. Comes from a good gym, a city kickboxing. They definitely have good game plans. I do think Kai Kara France has the power advantage, but I think Brandon Moreno has the speed advantage. Plus, too, I think Brandon Moreno is better at mixing it up, where I think he will go for a takedown. While Kai Kara France, him, he wants to keep the fight on standing. So I mean, he will try to implement his takedown defense. But I think Brandon Moreno also will be able to maybe get him down here or there, control him, mix it up, have it standing, have it on the ground. And I just think Brandon Moreno will get his hand raised because of it.
Tim, Brandon Moreno is arguably the uncrowned champ, because first fight, Figueiredo won. He only got a draw because of the point he lost. Second fight, Moreno left.
I told you.
Second fight, huh?
I told you he lost. Brandon Moreno won that first fight too, man.
No, he didn't. I think most people agree that Figueiredo won that first fight, and if it wasn't for the point deduction, he would have won it. It wouldn't have been a draw. But that said, the second fight, Moreno left no doubt. And then the third fight, even though Figueiredo got the decision, I actually thought Moreno won that fight. So Moreno's coming into this fight with a chip on his shoulder. Does he come into this fight carrying himself like he did as the champion, or is he coming in there like he did as the challenger in Hungary?
I tell you what, if he comes in with a chip on his shoulder, looking for a firefight and looking to prove something, that's going to be the worst game plan that you can bring against a guy like Kai Kara France. That's the stuff that gets him into trouble against guys like Davis and Figueiredo. The first time that these two gentlemen fought, that's the parts where he was getting into a lot of trouble, is leaning into firefights. Both of these guys need to stay composed. Both of these guys need to control from distance. Both of these guys need to control with the jab. I think Brandon Moreno made his adjustments in the second fight, in the second round, by landing high and low, mixing in body strikes, stuff like that. That was really starting to pay off. It's hard to really look at their first fight because both of these guys have gotten so much better in that amount of time. Like it's almost unfair to use that first fight as a reference point, but it is still a reference point. Kai Kara France looks like he lost motivation and cardio in that fight. But I honestly do think Kai Kara France, I might eat my words coming Sunday morning, and I don't mind that. I think Kai Kara France is the better boxer, and I think he's going to win this fight.
Dan, going into the first fight with Figueiredo, both of them took that fight on like a 3-week short weight cut notice. Nobody expected the war that we got. Second fight left no doubt. Third fight had a full camp, and obviously Figueiredo mixed in the wrestling that Henry Cejudo was teaching him. And doing some different things that kind of confused Moreno sometimes, but Moreno was still sharp. Moreno was still fighting with an edge. And Kara France has come off 3 straight impressive wins, even though he did lose to Roy Val not too long ago. the momentum, though, is on Kara France's side now. What do you expect?
One point that we haven't even mentioned is the fact that Moreno moved to Glory Gym and he's working with James Krause now.
He's going both. He's going both. We've talked about this on Crossing Borders.
Yeah.
He spends half his time with Krause, some of his time in Vegas with Couture. Then he also spends time down in his gym in Tijuana, because the Tijuana gym is his gym.
Yeah. But that was a big move for him, because like I said it on my show before, that if you look at Glory Gym, all the
IQ.
Yeah, all the really winning fighters there are strikers that have gone there to kind of harness that grappling and to work on it. Because I feel like when you have like a grappler who's already well known for that they're not really adding a game like a new niche to their game. But I feel like he's adding that. I think he saw in that third fight that he was kind of struggling, getting confused with it. So he was like, I need to move to Glory. I need to work with guys that are grappling, and he does have that background. He just doesn't use it that much. He used it in the first fight, and then in the second fight, he didn't really have to touch it too much because his striking was so far quicker than Figueiredo that fight that he didn't even have to utilize it. And I feel like he wants to become more of a well-rounded fighter, whereas Kai Kara France, I do think he's the better boxer, more powerful. He'll rival him even with the speed, but he doesn't really have that grappling that you see. You saw him kind of survive against Askarov with the takedown defense, but then he was piecing him up with the striking, because Askar is primarily a grappler. He can throw with you, but it's not his mainstay. Whereas Moreno, he has been working on the grappling, and he can match him with the striking. He is the quicker fighter. And I think this is going to get the decision. I think it's going to be a close fight. But I'm going to get the edge to Moreno, because I feel like he's going to be more hungry to get that title back, even though if it's just the interim right now. He wants that fight again with Figueiredo, and if he wins this, he'll get it.
Tim, sorry, I'm going to leave you on the island this time. December 14th, 2019. I can't believe nobody's mentioned this. Moreno's already beat him.
Huh?
Moreno already beat Kai Kara France. It was only 3 years ago.
Hey, Tim brought it up.
The whole thing, I said round 1 and then round 2, they did this. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. I mean, but you talked about a lot of the other stuff. Look, it's already happened. We've already seen this. We can hype it all we want. That was before Brandon Moreno even made improvements. Like the Brandon Moreno that between the first and second Figueiredo fight, completely like his confidence is up. His swagger is there. The guy who used to be the most humble babyface guy in the room never said a word outside of like maybe doing UFC shows on Spanish. Never said nothing bad about anybody, is all of a sudden calling Figueiredo a female cat. Like I'm not gonna get completely censored on this show. Look, this guy has swagger. He's confident. He's got a chip on his shoulder because he feels like he was robbed of his title that he fought hard to earn. So I think Moreno's going to go out, take care of business, gets Kara France. But Kara France has 9 losses on his record. He gets like streaky. He wins a couple fights and then he loses a couple fights. He's a good fighter, but he's not a champion fighter. And I think this was just a benefit of both Figueiredo and Moreno's beef. And both of them called Kara France out after the Askarov fight because they wanted new blood. Truth be told, it should have been Pantoja or Perez in this spot. But that's a different fight on this card. So I got Moreno. Start off with you, Dan. What is your fight to watch on this card?
I'm going with Dontel Mays versus Hamdi Abdelwahab. Going into this, I think a lot of people are going to be on the veteran Mays. Of course, he has the reach and the height advantage in this matchup.
Big boys, the heavyweights.
Yeah. His last fight, he had the TKO, then he had the decision. But then the 2 fights before that, he was subbed and lost. But then you got a guy on the other side, one of the first Egyptian fighters in UFC, in Hamdi. He has knockout power, but then he has that wrestling background. I believe it's Greco-Roman. And I feel like it's going to be a sneaky if he can get inside that reach, take down Mays, and get one of those submissions, because that's been one of Mays's his Achilles heel has been the grappling and the tapping out. And I think it's either going to be Mays knocks him out, or I feel like Hamde is going to pull off the upset and get the victory. I'm going with Hamde. I think he gets the submission here because I feel like
I wasn't sure which way you were going with that one.
I feel like he's going to get him down and get him with the rear naked choke.
Tim, what fight are you keeping an eye on?
I am so excited for my Drakkar Close versus Rafa Garcia. Drakkar Close, he's got back in the win column with his last fight, but I think you can expect him to earn a knockout of the night here on this one, and it's going to be a banger. It's going to be a rough one leading up to it. Big fan of Drakkar Close, so this is going to be a hell of a fight.
Brandon, what fight are you looking at?
I'm going with the Ankalaev versus Smith fight. I know a lot of people are picking Ankalaev to get the job done, but
I know you're a big Anthony Smith fan.
But I'm rocking with my boy Lionheart, Anthony Smith. Like I said, I think he has the striking, but also too he has the submissions. Saying Ankalaev does have the wrestling, he'll take you down, he'll try to ground and pound you, beat you up that way, but he's got no submissions. So I'm thinking that hey, Smith could get taken down, but he might be able to pull off a sneaky submission and get the job done that way.
Yeah, I worry about Anthony Smith sometimes because every time he gets a big fight, he just doesn't seem to get over the hump sometimes. But he's looked great his last couple fights, and I like Anthony Smith in that fight kind of a lot too. I'm looking at that Alex Pantoja, Alex Perez fight. The two Alexes, both flyweight contenders, they're both sitting in the wings for whatever happens in that interim title fight or whatever happens with Figueiredo. If Figueiredo doesn't come back, one of these guys is next, and they're fighting for that title basically. They want that shot. Perez had his shot, right? Like he got the Figueiredo shot and got caught in the guillotine. As our good friend Sergio used to say, you don't go into what they do. You know what they do. Don't let them do it. Like that's what he was looking for. And he got caught in that one. Pantoja has like been knocking on that door for a while. I think Pantoja is the more well-rounded fighter. I think he has the more skills on both the ground and on the feet. I think Perez has a chance to kind of use a flash knockdown, use his speed. But I think Pantoja is the better all-around fighter. So I think Alex Pantoja is going to get this win, maybe set up a chance to beat Brandon Moreno for a third time because they've already fought a couple times, once on tough and once outside of it. He has his number. So I think if he wants to get that shot, he's got to get through Alex Perez, and I think he will. So I'm going with Alex Pantoja. Also in that card, we got the Black Beast, Derek Lewis going against Pavlovich. That's going to be a banger. I almost picked that fight. You got Alex Morono and Matt Smellsberger. That's going to be a good fight. Drew Dober always brings the fun fight with Rafael Alves. Talked about we got Michael Morales versus Adam Fagit. Jocelyn Edwards versus Ji Jung Kim. That one actually is going to be interesting. I never really know what to expect out of Jocelyn Edwards. I think she's going to be like a superstar and she loses. And then when I don't expect her to win, she wins. I'm like, I don't. Nikolay, I can't even say the last name. I apologize. Versus Ihor Pateria. And then opening up the fight card, Orion Kasi versus Mike Mateda. Before we get out of here, last thoughts on the card, Dan.
I'm looking forward to that Lewis Pavlovich fight. We're looking forward to it. A lot of people are like heavy on Lewis. I see it more of like a 50-50 fight because you can't like discount the fact that Pavlovich has that 8-inch reach advantage in a fight like this. And I think whoever
never hurt Lewis before. He never struggles really that much with the big dudes.
It struggles.
Blaydes had a reach advancement.
But with me, it's whoever can be more aggressive in that fight and push forward. I think we'll get the victory because we've seen fighters moving backwards. It takes a little bit off of the power of your striking. And with me, with Pavlovich, maybe we see that Sambo background that he doesn't use that much because he has all of his fights ended in the first round. So we really haven't seen too much of his game. So it makes a really intriguing fight for me, considering that he is fighting up, I think, 6 spots because it's 6 versus, I think, 12.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where Pavlovich really hasn't fought anybody. The only time he fought somebody was over him and he got knocked out. That was his only loss. So it'd be interesting to see which Derek Lewis shows up. But hey, if it's a 3-round fight, Derek Lewis is game. Tim, what are you looking forward to on this card before we get out of here?
I keep saying, and I think I said it on this show, keep watching Jocelyn Edwards, pardon me.
Which
sometimes
Jocelyn shows up.
Yeah, is she going to prove me right? Is she going to prove me wrong? If she is in form, I think she's an amazing fighter, but sometimes you just get out-wrestled, and that's the way she goes sometimes.
Yeah, I just don't know what to expect out of her. Brandon, what are your thoughts on the card?
I'm always down to watch Drew Dober in action. Good striking. So hopefully he'll get his hand raised.
My thoughts on Jocelyn. I always joke when Brandon picks Jessie Jess. And I was like, there's no way she's going to be Jocelyn. And then she beat Jocelyn.
I know.
So it was like the one time Brandon was right about Jessie Jess. I was just like, I can't with this guy. Final thoughts on my end. Man, I just think it's a pretty top-heavy card. There's a couple highlights lower in the prelims. Keep an eye on. But I think the main card is going to be a great show. Definitely something to keep an eye on. And it's always nice to get out of Vegas. They're going to be down in Dallas, Texas, the American Airlines Arena or Center. So it'll be a good night. Close to Derek Lewis's hometown, but not enough for him to get nervous and lose in Houston. So we'll see what happens with that one. Definitely a banger. The lightweights will probably steal the show, both those fights. I want to take time. Dan, tell people where they can find you.
You can find me on Cage My IQ.
And on Fighters First.
And on Fighters First. You can find me on Twitter at Cage IQ. You can find me on Instagram on Cage My IQ. And just check out all the content I have out there. I just put out that interview with Damon Jackson, the Leech. Talked over.
There you go, Brandon.
That was a good interview there. Just put out my 277 video, and I got a couple of interviews lined up next week.
You missed last week with Brandon calling Jason Jackson, Damon Jackson multiple times. Tim, tell people where they can find you besides right here on the Fighters First Network with Kicking It. Oh, real quick. Don't forget, me and Dan just put out a show yesterday at Slamtown talking about Vince McMahon and the Nature Boys' last match. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, it's a big show. It's a good time to do that show as well. But aside from, you can find me on this award-winning network, Fighters First, with our award-winning Kicking It show. Aside from that, you can find me, Tim Wheaton MMA, Instagram and Twitter. I do writing on MMA Sucka and Sports Kita. I also do interviews on Calf Kick Sports, Vect Sport, MMA Sucka, Sports Kita, all that stuff. I should have Alexa Grasso on the show next week, and then maybe some other stuff I'm working on as well. We'll see. Yeah.
Don't tell my wife. Don't tell my wife.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure she's in a meeting. She's fine. And of course, Kicking It every other week right here on Tuesdays on the Fighters First Network with his co-host. Oh, by the way, Tim, one of our segments on Art of MMA did beat Kicking It last week. I just want to point out our Bellator show. Our Bellator clip actually beat Kicking It. I just want to point out Mr. A's show. Go ahead.
Wait, remember, show. You had a clip. No.
You're on the clip, dum-dum.
I know.
It's your clip, too.
It's still
Brandon wins either way.
Brandon, whose side are you on?
I'm going with the
You're wearing our shirt.
Yeah, you guys know where to find me, man. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Cuttino TSMA on Twitter and Instagram. On Facebook is Brandon the Mechanic Cuttino. And of course, like you said, I got my two shows. I got Kicking It with my guy Tim over here, and I got Art of MMA, which of course I hang out with good old Mike. When I talk MMA, talk kickboxing. Then also, hey guys, you guys remember Robbie Timbers? I'm still here, baby. October 8th, Collision 4. Let's get it. Me versus Muhammad Jarrah. I still want it, man. I'm available. Like I said, the passport's in the mail. I'll be ready. Let me know.
Hey, UWA Elite, if you guys are listening, I couldn't think of a better fatal four-way. I don't know if Tim will make the trip over across the pond. It's not time for him to go to Canada right now. So maybe a triple threat. I know Dan will be down. Make it happen because this guy, I can't win with him. I can't lose with him. I don't know what to do. And I've been playing a lot of WWE 2K22 lately, building up my Mike Fresh character. So I'm ready to hit him with that RKO out of nowhere. I'm just saying. That said, for Dan Bakley, Cage My IQ, Calf Kick Sports, Tim Wheaton, of course, my partner, the Mechanic, Brandon Cuttino. Check out all of their collections on FightersFirst.shop. I'm Mike Ginn. This is Art of MMA. Enjoy the fights this weekend. We're out.